afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this session. The whole, setting the context for the session is basically that in this second wave of pandemic, I think we're seeing a lot of children being also affected. Uh, Ma'am, could you mute yourself for a moment? I think there's some
Sure.
disturbance. Yeah, thank you so much. So sorry for that. Again, just to begin again, welcome everybody. A very good afternoon again. Just to set the context for the session, it has been observed that in the second phase of the second wave or the new wave that has been seen, there are a lot of children also who are getting affected by the COVID-19 infection, and we are getting a lot of questions on how to uh, understand whether the children are affected, and then how do we take care of these children, and what are the precautions that they need to be taking. So this today's session will be mostly talking about all of these points, and it will also answer a few of your questions. To talk on this topic today, we have Dr. Tanushree Mukherjee with us. Dr. Tanushree is a consultant pediatrician and neonatologist working with the Cloud9 Hospital, Mumbai. She is an Indian Academy of Pediatrics Fellow and also specializes in neonatal intensive care, preterm nutrition and care for extremely low birth weight and high-risk babies. She is a diplomate of the National Board in Pediatrics from Mumbai and has been trained in child care from Calcutta Medical College. Dr. Mukherjee has a cumulative experience of more than 15 years in pediatrics and neonatal care. Dr. Mukherjee is also a contributing author in the neonatology textbooks titled Pediatric Infectious Disease, OSCE in Neonatology, and Protocols in Neonatology. She has also published multiple research articles on pediatric critical illnesses. So without further ado, we welcome Dr. Tanushree, and I hand it over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tanvi. Thanks for the kind introduction. Hi, welcome you all. So I'm Dr. Tanushree. So today, at Tanvi was already discussing that this wave. Just 1 second. So this wave is little different from what we have seen last year. So every day we have, a lot of parents, though they come and ask us the question. So when I have a word with Swapnil, so I was just thinking, so I will just, I will just make it in a question answer format, whatever the questions we are, getting every day from the parents. It will be more of a scientific as much as possible. So we will discuss about care of your child at home to prevent COVID infection. Then if you have any mild infection, how to care about the babies, when to ring the bell, so when you should go to a doctor, and there will be some discussion about the danger signs. So as we all know, it's not only the pandemic what we are going through right now, it's an infodemic. So every day there are so many, I would say our mobiles, they are just filled with so many, WhatsApp messages, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere there are a lot of information. So we don't know the credibility of all those infection or all those information, what, it's there, how much is true, how much is false. That causes a lot of stress among the people. So it's always you take it, you screen and then you take the information whatever we should take it, and we should believe it. So why 2021 is different from 2022? So the major reason for this is that this time we have seen the new variant strains of the virus. So what is a variant strain? So when the variant strain means that there are certain changes in the virus, and that is expected. That happens with all viruses, and with COVID also, with this coronavirus also, there are certain changes that has been happened in the virus over time. So there are many changes that doesn't cause any change in the infectivity or the disease or the way how they are infecting the people. But there are some variants that is known as variant of concern. those are the variants that needs more studies and more, more elaborative, knowledge we need for that. So those trends that cause some changes in the viruses. Till now, this variant of concern, whatever we have seen, there is more or less close to the COVID, the previous virus, and there is no changes in the how the disease is happening, how the disease is clinically manifesting, or whether it's affecting more the pediatric population rather than the adult population. But what we are seeing that these are the strain that has more transmissibility on it has a higher attaching capability. So what does that mean? That means this virus is much more infectious. Last year, when we have seen COVID, we have seen in a family either one or two patient is COVID positive, and the rest of the people they are spared if they are taking the proper precautions. But this time, because this virus is extremely infectious, so we are seeing in a family if one person is infected, the whole family is getting infected with the virus. And it's very common, if in a family there are 5 to 6 people, and if all adults are positive, so definitely it's so difficult that the child won't have the disease. And by, almost most of the time, the babies are also getting the infection because of that. So that's why it's much more infectious. It's affecting, more aggressively, I would say. Then coming to increased exposure to kids. This is very different in 2021, what we have seen. Last year, when the lockdown was there, everything was shut. Most of the time, the kids were indoor and, they were well protected. Once the first wave was over, so kids started coming out, they went to garden, they went to the play area. So long due family functions had started. They went, they attended, marriage ceremonies, birthday parties, and sometimes they traveled a lot with their parents because during the first lockdown, many of our patients also they were stuck in one place. They couldn't move. So once the lockdown was over, so they were traveling from one city to another city. So that also exposed the kids to a lot of other to the society, to the environment. And then came the older ones. So older one, they started with their coaching classes. They started with their schools. In Mumbai, the school was not, not open so much, but in the other states and everywhere, the schools were open. So there are a lot of kids who were exposed to the society, and that's how they have more of, infection. And this is another thing that is lack of concern among us, the adults or us, the family members. We still have, with this 2021 also, we have so many people who are, still think that the corona doesn't exist or it's just a mild flu. Till the time, if any of the family member is severely affected or, it's going through a lot of stress, then only. So even if I have mild symptoms, I still go out. I still spread the infection. I don't wear a mask, and this thing has we have somewhere we have taken it too loosely, and now we are paying for that. So lack of concern is one of the major thing, and the last thing is that still now we don't have any vaccination for the kids. So that will come later, but this is another thing why the kids are not, it's more during this time. So now parents they ask us, should I worry about, so in this scenario, so should I worry about my child getting COVID or how the child has impacted our children? Does it different from a baby who is 5 days old, from a baby who is 3 month old, from a baby who is a 3 year or 10 year old? Yes, it is different. So it is different presentation depending upon the age of the patient. It depends upon whether the patient is getting the infection from the society or from at your home. But majority of the cases that what we are seeing right now, it's a very mild infection. So we as a parent, we as a doctor, I think we are lucky that our babies are having infection, but it's very mild compared to the adult, and they are getting better. And most of the time, they are just asymptomatic. So this thing is happening a lot in the families where all adults are positive. So if we do the testing for the baby might have, just as normal sneeze or something kind of, and the baby is turning out to be positive, but the baby is completely asymptomatic. But again, this baby is also can spread the infection to the others. So the main thing is that it's a mild infection and with almost complete recovery of the patients. So what should I do if my baby has, symptoms of COVID, or what are the things that we watch out for? So first, what we see most of the time, the babies are just feel unwell. So they are not. So one important thing about COVID is that it causes lot of exhaustion and weakness, and the babies they don't feel that they don't understand what is happening. So they just feel unwell. So they are not playing so much. They are, they can have fever. They can have either respiratory symptoms like either sneezing, cough, sore throat, itchiness in the throat, pain in the throat, or they have majority the vomiting, diarrhea, loose motions, and all those things. They can have belly pain, see, pain in the tummy. They can have rash or dizziness. So what is most important that please don't self-medicate. If you have any of the symptoms, please call up your doctors. So why it is so important that we can decide on many things like whether the baby needed a testing or not. Sometimes nowadays we are seeing in a family, maybe the baby is affected, the first person to be affected. So there is, parents may be an asymptomatic carrier, or it's not always parents. Sometimes the maid who is just coming for 2 hours for to work, that person was having cough and cold, or the malish badi dai. We have seen so many patients. The malish badi dai was coming just for massage for half an hour, and a baby who is just 3 months, 4 months, or some 15 days old baby. So they have turned positive. So whether the testing is important needed or not, whether it can be treated at home. Most of our babies who are getting better when they are getting treatment at home. So it's in home quarantine, and they are getting better on home medications only. Whether you have to come for a visit, or whether we want to see your baby physically. So there are some danger signs what we will discuss that is very extremely important to identify, and on those situations we want to see the baby physically once, just to have a complete physical checkup. So this is very important whether you have to come to the hospital for a visit, or it can be, or you can opt for a video consultation, and we can start with the treatment and everything for the baby. So it's very important. But as I said, please avoid self medication for the baby. Now, if my baby has COVID infection, so how do I take care of my child with COVID? Or what is the treatment of mild infection? What we should do? Most important, it can be managed at home. Another important thing is that most of the time the baby need only one medication, that is your paracetamol, crocin, calpol, baby jessic, anything. So all are paracetamol. So they just need paracetamol medication just to tide over the fever. Otherwise, depending on the symptoms, if the baby is having some diarrhea, we give probiotic syrups. If it is vomiting, then anti-vomiting medication, or just over-the-counter, regular cough cold medication. These are important. Hydration is extremely important. So it happens with all diseases. It happens with COVID also, that sometimes any viral infection, the babies get extremely dehydrated. And till now our babies, they are not able to tell us, the smaller ones, whether they have the absence of that like taste or smell or anything. So sometimes they just refuse to feed. So that's why and that's why they don't take anything. And we as a parent, we think if the baby is not taking food, that means the baby is that is the only thing, but it's not always. Your hydration is so important. You can give ORS, you can give water, simple nimbu pani, simple glucon D, coconut water, juice, soups, everything. As long as the baby is passing good amount of urine and the baby is well hydrated, it's very important. Then coming rest, as COVID causes a lot of exhaustion, so rest is extremely important for recovery of the patients. And then nutrition. Nutrition, normal protein-rich diet with fruits, vegetables, and sometimes if the babies are not taking whatever the babies are, taking, just give them that. Sometimes they are more on milk, that's okay. Uh, we get a lot of questions on pediatric COVID whether we should, as a routine, give vitamin C, zinc, multivitamin, azithromycin, and all those medication. Honestly speaking, we don't have enough data on pediatric COVID right now, whether they actually help or not. If the patients are a little bit, older, like the adolescent age group, they behave more like an adult COVID. For them, we give vitamin C, we give zinc as a routine supplementation. But if my baby is very small, it's just a 3-month-old breastfeeding babies or, less than infancy period. So vitamin C is actually not required for them. Sometimes we give some multivitamin drops containing zinc or some zinc drops. It helps in diarrhea also sometimes, but it's not as a routine. Most important and most of the time what they need is just rest, hydration and paracetamol, and just a 2 to 3 days of disease, what we see. So what are the types? It's right now what we are seeing that we see two types of COVID presentation in pediatric patient. Number one is the acute COVID illness that is much more common. Here, the baby is having either fever, cough, cold, or fever, loose motion. It's just 2 to 3 days of illness, and the baby is getting better within 2 to 3 days, and they are, then they're jumping around and running around. Most of the time, the family has been tested for COVID. All the family members are positive, or the parents are positive, and they are recovering altogether in a similar way. The second thing is that and the second thing is that that is much more important, and that we are also learning right now. So that is a separate story for COVID. That happens after 2 to 3 weeks of the child tested positive. So it can have a baby who is tested positive for COVID, and the baby is presenting after 2 to 3 days, 2 to 3 weeks, or the baby had some fever, got better in 2 to 3 days, not tested for COVID, and then the baby is having these symptoms after 2 to 3 weeks, or the baby didn't have anything, but the family tested positive, and then the baby is having symptoms after 2 to 3 weeks. So this is extremely important to know in COVID, and that's why once the babies are getting better, we have to watch out them for at least a month, or 1.5 months, to identify this thing. This is known as multisystem inflammatory syndrome in children, or MISC. The same kind of syndrome that we used to see for many years, also known as Kawasaki syndrome. It's a very deadly disease, I would say, and I will just come into the presentation how we see it. So how do I know that my baby is going into this MISC, or my baby is going, this through this difficult phases, or what are the danger signs we have to see? Normally, this baby, once they get better on the second week or third week, they come to us with high-grade fever for 4 to 5 days. They have extreme pain in the tummy, or tummy pain, or belly pain. They have repeated vomiting and diarrhea. There is neck pain, neck stiffness, as well as headache. They can have rash all over the body, or maybe on the back. Red eye, it looks like an conjunctivitis. Sometimes they are just extremely tired or exhausted. If the babies are infant, they are not able to tell us that they are feeling tired or weak. So those are the babies who are very lethargic and decreased activity. They are very dehydrated, they have a low urine output, sometimes they have just red cracked lip kind of. So overall the face of the baby looks very red, it's extremely red and swelled up. There may be swollen hand or feet, or swollen lymph node. So what you can see on this picture, that these are the few things what I just told you. So if your baby's tongue looks like it's strawberry kind of tongue, or if the eyes are looking very red, If the lips are looking very red, if the baby is having rash kind of thing, please, please, please don't delay at home. Immediately consult your doctor, because this need immediate medical attention, and that can happen till the baby, recovering from COVID, even after 2 to 3 weeks or 1 month also. This is known as multi-system inflammatory syndrome, or it's an inflammatory disease. And here the treatment is almost like an severe adult COVID treatment. So we have to give the baby steroids. Some babies, they may need oxygen. Some babies may need ventilation, proper ICU care. They may need, one medication known as IVIG. But if the babies can be referred early, start treatment early, then these babies are also getting better. Okay, so most important is to catch them early and refer and to see the doctor early. So after this, then how do I know that whether my baby is at risk for multi-system inflammatory disease, or is there any predictor points, or can we just predict that this baby can have this? Usually the virus is very milder, that we have already discussed, but sometimes the older children or the babies who have other comorbidities, it can be a heart disease, lung disease, diabetes, or any other issues, they are having more of this, inflammatory syndrome, what we are seeing. And another very important thing is that this is a very difficult time for the parents who has kids with any chronic disease. The babies who need some medical care as a routine, and on everyday basis. So those are the babies with some heart disease who had undergone some surgery. So babies who is having some asthma, or the babies who's having chronic kidney disease or something. So always talk to your doctor if the things can be settled on a teleconsultation or video consultation. Try to do that. That's very, very important. If you can't avoid coming to the hospital, and hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Yeah, sure. So if but if your hospital checkup is unavoidable, so then please take all the precautions. You inform your staff, you inform your hospital that you are coming with this baby in a in a different in this time. Take precaution and then come. In Cloud9, we have separated our OPDs. So in a OPD, we see our regular babies, and those babies who just newborn babies, well baby clinic babies, the babies who are NICU graduates who are coming back up from the NICU, or the baby where we do the vaccination. And our fever OPD is completely different. So we have separated our two OPDs, and that we are doing, that we have done in our first wave of COVID also, even this wave also. So it's very, very important. So take precautions, then only you come to see the doctor. So then comes how to keep my family and my children safe in this time, or how can I avoid this infection? I know it's extremely difficult, but we all know that it's always prevention is better than cure. So we all swear by this, thing, and that is not only for the COVID, it's for all the infections. So take prevention. Hello. I think the sound is some problem. Hello.
No, ma'am, we can hear you.
Acha. So there are few, chat box. There is saying, I think few people, they are not able to hear. So prevention is always better. So what are the preventive steps that what you can do? First and foremost is your hand washing. So hand washing is extremely important, and so involve babies in hand washing. Let them know how to do the hand washing. Simple soap and water hand washing is also good enough. Sometimes just ask them, if the babies are smaller kids, ask them to sing a song. So during that time, sometimes they just have enough time to make enough bubble, and then that is a very good hand washing. So hand washing is extremely important. Then the respiratory etiquette. So teach them that whenever they are coughing and sneezing, they can do it on elbow. Okay, even if the smallest of the smallest babies also, if we teach them that you can't just, cough it out and, on another baby's face or something, just use your elbow to cough or sneeze, they learn it and they actually do it. Then maintain the physical distancing rather than the social distancing. There are a lot of talk in that, and it's extremely important. So if it's help in the prevention of disease. I think the lockdown has helped in that way only. So if you avoid going to a crowded place, avoid maintain a physical distancing, and that's how we can avoid that infection in babies. And appropriate use of mask, if it is age appropriate, then we can do it. Okay. uh, then come then parents ask us who should wear a mask, like what is the age group when we can ask them or we can teach them so that they can wear a mask. So all adults and who are older than years, whenever you are outside, we should wear a mask. At home, if you don't have symptoms, if the other family members, they don't have any other symptoms, then there is no need to wear it. Who is having fever, cough, cold, or anything, that person should wear a mask, and your surgical mask is also good enough. But what is much more important is appropriate use of mask and how we handle and how we dispose the mask. That is extremely, extremely important. So what do I mean by that? So teach your children that how to use the how to use the mask and how to hold the mask, use the ring on the on the ear, or they can just tie the mask on the back of their head. Once they are wearing the mask, don't touch the front part of the mask repeated times. The mask should cover the mouth and the nose. And we do see a lot of time, the mask is there, but mask is not there in the proper place. So, and don't touch repeatedly. Once you are removing of the mask, you have to hold the ring and then discard it in a bin. Okay, and then you wash your hand. So what we have seen, if the babies are really small, they are not able to, coordinate so many tasks. And that's why sometimes the kids who are a little bit older, they can handle the mask, in a much, much better way. So this is what we see, how we can wear our mask. And this is many of the time what we see, and then we shouldn't do it. Like we are seeing this in roads so many times, but this is absolutely, it's a stupidity if if we wear the mask like this. So then come the question, so what should I do if someone in my family has been tested positive? So there are two things into it. It depends on how sick is that person. If that person is, having comorbidity, if the person is extremely sick, or if the person needs some medical attention, the patient may need, admission in a hospital, and then the person is out. So isolate that person immediately. It can happen in a family, either the father or the mother has been tested positive, and then so the other person, the other parent can take care of the baby, or any other caregiver can take care of the baby, and then we can handle it. Or there are many families when all the family members are affected. Some are asymptomatic, some are mildly symptomatic. So then there is no need of isolate anyone. You can stay together, but make sure you are completing your quarantine period or the isolation period, and then only you are going out. So take all the precautions whatever we have discussed right now. That's it. So in this situation, we are seeing a lot when the mother, who has just delivered a baby, and now the mother is positive. There are a lot of scenarios are coming like that. So can I breastfeed my baby if I have COVID? The big answer is yes, you can, because breastfeeding is something that is extremely important to the babies. So in our private hospital, in Mumbai, there is one hospital, Nayar Hospital. They have delivered almost thousand of mothers who had tested COVID positive in the first and even on the second also. They have not stopped breastfeeding for a single mother. And what is seen that if we take proper precautions like mask, hand washing, and whenever you are not feeding, keep a distance with the baby. So the other than the feeding, the other stuff like baby care, like changing the diaper, putting the baby to sleep, or handling the baby, that can be done by any other member of the family who is COVID negative. So it can be done by the father, it can be done by the grandparents or any other family members to keep the baby for 14 days till mom's quarantine period is over. Sometimes, if for mother's own health, if she is not able to directly breastfeed, then also you can express the milk and then you can feed the baby the expressed breast milk. I have few mothers, unfortunately, they were very sick and they have to shift it to a hospital for their health. On that same, on only on that, those are the cases when we want to give the formula milk. But otherwise, breastfeeding is extremely important and you can breastfeed your babies. The only thing is that in adults, whatever we are seeing right now, most of the time the mothers need only paracetamol, zinc, vitamin C, and that other regular medications. So there is this medication like flavinavir. It's really not compatible with the breastfeeding. So if this mother needs this medication, then for few days we may have to stop breastfeeding. Otherwise, on a regular case, we can breastfeed our baby. So now comes the question. So can a pregnant woman can spread the infection to the unborn child? Till now, I would say no, but as COVID is a new disease, and we are also learning the disease in every aspect. Till now, the studies have shown no COVID. If the mother is having COVID infection while she is pregnant, the unborn baby, they are not born with COVID infection. Sometimes they are born with the antibody, and that is protecting them. But another important thing is that in the second trimester, what we are seeing, if the mother is having COVID infection or if the pregnant lady is having them, then the chances of complication can be extremely high. So what are those complications? Sometimes this pregnancy, pregnant ladies, they can have premature delivery. So the delivery can happen even before the expected date of delivery. The babies can be preterm. The babies may need some ICU. The babies may come with a very low weight and the other complications of this baby. So that's why it's extremely important. And then come the question, so can I take the vaccination if I am breastfeeding or if I am pregnant? So it has two parts. Coming to the pregnancy first, in pregnancy, in the first 12 weeks of the pregnancy, the mainly the baby's organ formation happens. So till now, we don't have enough data on that. And we say it's better if you avoid COVID vaccination during the first 12 weeks of your pregnancy period. But after that, or in the second, half of your pregnancy, when it's around 24 weeks, 28 weeks, so that time you can go ahead and take the COVID vaccination. It's extremely important because vaccination has reduced the complication of COVID. That is the only thing that's going to help us. So you can take any other vaccination along with the pregnancy, COVID vaccination. There has to be a gap of 2 weeks. Other vaccination what we give in the pregnancy is influenza vaccination and the DTaP vaccination. So along with that, it has to be a gap of 2 to 4 weeks we have to maintain, but this is very safe and you can go ahead. Coming to breastfeeding, it's much more straightforward. So breastfeeding mothers, definitely, they can go ahead and they can take COVID vaccination. The mother who is breastfeeding, sometimes, it helps in transmitting the antibody to the baby. breastfeeding mothers per se, COVID vaccination doesn't has any ill effect on the breastfeeding. You don't have to stop the breastfeeding for some time if you are taking vaccinations. You can go ahead and take it at what gestation, whether you are exclusively breastfeeding or you are just weaning the baby off from your breastfeeding, like even after 6 months or 1 year. So you can go and you can take vaccination. So then come the question, so what is the status of vaccination? So when our children are going to take vaccination or get the vaccination, till now in India, we don't have enough answer for it. So there is a vaccination that is available from Pfizer that they are, they have accredited that in more than 17 years. Their data is still coming for the age group from 15 to 17 years, and they have enough data, but they are just about to start. But in India, when it's coming, and specifically for our younger ones, we still don't know. There are many vaccination trials that is going on, but till now, we don't have any data on that. And that's why whenever we are, expecting our third wave of COVID, maybe in the month of July, August, September kind of thing, that or in the winter time of season. That's why our children are much more at risk, because by that time most of the adult will get vaccination, but our children will be till now the children are not going to get anything, and that's why your uses of mask, your physical distancing, your hand hygiene and everything is extremely important, and we have to take precautions. How to talk to your children about COVID. This is very important. Nowadays, because of this pandemic, we are seeing lot of stress, anxiety, lot of mental health issues in the children. And it depends on your baby's developmental age. It depends on your baby's maturity of the baby. So, but we have to talk to them about COVID. The first, sometimes we just want to know, what your child already know about the COVID and from what source they are getting the news. It's sometimes if the children are, sometimes if the children are they are small, we just ask them, so do you know have any idea what this virus is going on, or what is this COVID? So sometimes they open up, they give us leads, and then you can just follow the lead and you can just ask them. Next is offer comfort and honesty. So if they ask me something that I really don't know, I say, no, I don't know. I have to just go and check whether it's actually there or not. And then both of us can together can go and check that, site for the answer. And you can go and check the good sites. You can go and check the WHO sites, CDC site, or MOH, Ministry of Health sites, where there are good information are there and with a good credibility is there. If the babies are going and checking, on the WhatsApp group, on the YouTube videos or everything, all those may not be correct, and that causes a lot of stress and anxiety among themselves. So this is very, very important. Sometimes just make them feel safe. They also feel unsafe. If they have seen, sometimes they just feel that they are the next one who can get that infection, or maybe my grandparent who can have this infection. So make them feel safe. It's very important. Give them some walk so that the kids feel that they are doing something and they feel they can control the situation. So simple hand washing, simple, uses of mask, simple, those are the things they feel they are doing something, and that's why, they are feeling better. And so they feel better, and it's always that it's tell them that it's okay. Sometimes if they feel extremely scared, it's absolutely okay. If they feel it's because we are all going through the similar phase right now, and it's always keep the conversation open. So whenever they come up and they share their anxiety with you, so it's always very important to be calm and reassuring to them. Give the positive thing that is happening. There are so many patients that those are getting better, going home. There are so many new technologies are coming for the vaccination. So many patients are getting vaccination. So if they see think this all positive things, sometimes they get better with that. So this is another important thing I just want to stress upon also today. in pediatrics, we are seeing a lot of non-COVID illness. Those are increasing nowadays. One is mental health that I just discussed. We are seeing babies, the babies are having a lot of mental health issues. There is excessive screen time, and that is happening across all age group. Whether my baby is a 6 month old, 1 year old, 3 years old, or 10 or 15 years old, they have different reasons for that. But all babies, there are excessive screen time. In our OPDs, sometimes the kids who are outing, like waiting outside on a chair. Sometimes we see three kids, they are just sitting and they are just watching mobile, YouTube videos on the mobile. They are not even interacting with each other. They are not even playing with each other. So it's so rampant nowadays. This excessive screen time causes obesity in the kids because now they are at home, they are not going out. So, and they are, they don't have enough option to go out basically. And then, so they are, they are turning obese. There are a lot of constipation issues, mainly because of lack of exercise, lack obesity, as well as, this the food what we are eating nowadays. That's why the younger ones are coming with a lot of speech delay, and it's extremely concerning for us as a pediatrician, because these babies are not getting the enough stimulus. So at home, sometimes they are not going to play school, they are not able to go and mix with the other kids. Sometimes they are not exposed to the enough family members because of this social distancing, so nobody is able to come, and they are having speech delay, and that's why they have very poor social interaction. So these are the things that I really want to stress upon, because with COVID, good thing is that we have seen the other infectious disease has come down. Mask, hand washing, and all those things helps a lot. But with COVID, sometimes because of this thing is taking a mental toll on all of us, and now we are seeing more and more babies coming out with all these things. So I'm coming to my last, slide right now, and I would like to say that the kids are having infection, but it's a very mild infection with complete recovery. But it's always important to know when you reach out to your doctor. What are the danger signs that we have already discussed? Please, please, please immediately call your doctor, and you just see that whether what we can do next about it. Don't panic, but wise. Avoid the infodemic. Take the information with your, own, I would say, logic and everything. Don't just follow everything, whatever the information that is spreading around right now. Take precautions. This is the only thing that is going to help us even after the vaccination also. So physical distancing, hand wash, wear mask properly. So whenever we are doing this, appropriate mask usage is extremely important, and avoid going out unless it's extremly important or necessary. Avoid your birthday parties, avoid your other ceremonies, avoid lot of get-togethers and everything. We can't afford to do it right now. Sometimes the parents, they come and ask us, so what are the physical activity we tell parents, we tell kids to do. So if you have a gated community there, you can just go for a cycling, you can go for a biking, you can at home you can do simple yoga exercises with all of sitting together. You can play indoor games, so that helps in the family bonding also, that reduces the stress, that reduces the anxiety. Sometimes we are going through such a difficult phase, there are so many things, it's not in our hand, but by that I think we can just stay safe and we can just stay positive. I'm sure this thing also will go, and we will conquer this situation maybe in next couple of months or so. So thank you so much. Thanks for your patient hearing. I would, love to take any questions or anything, whatever if you have any.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Tanushree. That was a very insightful session, and I'm sure the audience had something or the other to take away. We have a few questions. If you could let
Yes.
me know,
Yeah,
uh,
sure.
if you can access the chat window,
I
or
really can't, Tanvi.
you.
So,
Oh, let me just
Yeah,
Give me a moment. I
sure.
will try and.
Uh,
So please post your questions in the Q&A section. Uh, yeah. So there is one question. Let me just. Yeah. So, okay, this is not related to COVID, but
right.
someone's asked that the baby girl is just 16 days old
Okay.
and they're experiencing some hard breast tissue. Is it normal or should they worry?
Yeah, it's extremely, it's extremely common. We do see a lot of things. And the most important thing, what you can do, not to press on the tissue, because whether it's a baby boy or it's a baby girl, sometimes they have this enlargement of the breast tissue. And it's important so that we don't press, because if we press there will be some amount of milk coming out, but that may lead to some breast abscess in the tissues. There are few Malish Wali Dai who insist on pressing on the breast and removing that milk. That we shouldn't do anytime. Okay, so it's very common and we do see a lot in babies.
All right, thank you so much for that. Then someone's asked on the dosage of paracetamol.
Yeah,
In this.
yeah, now I think I can see the question answer
Can
session.
can you? Yeah, the Q&A.
There is one question on pregnant and breastfed moms. I think that we discussed just now. So pregnancy and breastfeeding, you are completely, it's okay to, continue breastfeeding, and we should continue breastfeeding. That is very clear right now, we are on very clear on that. What is the
Okay,
answer? Can you
doctor,
just ask the questions? It's too
yeah,
many questions, but I really can't see anything.
no issues, doctor. I'll quickly
Yeah.
take it up for you. So there was one question on the dose of paracetamol.
Yeah, so dose of paracetamol depends on the weight of the baby. So the dose what we calculate, it's around 10 to 15 milligram per kg per dose. It's very important whenever you are giving paracetamol, just see the formulation, because if you are giving drops to the baby, then the drops are super concentrated. That 1 ml is 100 mg. But if you are giving syrup, the syrup, the doses are either 5 ml is 120 mg or 5 ml is 240 mg. So your doses in drops, the volume is much, much less. In syrup, where the volume is much, much more. But it is always around 10 to 15 milligram per kg, and you can just titrate and give.
Right. So a question is on basically a COVID positive mother, but
Yes.
she's taking medicines. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So can would these medicines affect when she's feeding the baby, or
Yeah.
if it will impact the baby?
Exactly, exactly, Tanvi. So what we normally see, if you are taking the medication, the regular medication that, vitamin C, zinc, paracetamol, and all those things, those are the things that the doctor must have prescribed you. That doesn't cause any problem with the breastfeeding. But sometimes on flavinavir, we still don't have enough data. So we said if you're taking flavinavir or ivermectin, it's better to avoid your, breastfeeding for some days, or you just tell your doctor that you are exclusively breastfeeding. And sometimes we can give the other medication who are completely, compatible with the breastfeeding.
All right, thank you so much. So, there are a couple of questions on testing for kids. So,
Yes.
so some of the pediatricians, I mean, some of the participants have taken their kids to the pediatricians.
Yeah.
The pediatrician suggested not to test for, despite having some common symptoms,
Okay.
and though also the mother is tested positive. So,
Okay.
is testing very much necessarily in kids?
It's a very important question, and we also come across a lot of things. But the thing is that it depends on many things. It depends on where you are staying. So if you are in Mumbai, it's easy to do the testing. Even for the kids, you can, call someone at home and you can just drop in the hospital. You can do this. In periphery, it's very, very, very difficult to do arrange a test even for the adults also. And sometimes the staff, they don't have enough expertise to collect a swab from the baby. It
Mhm.
We as a pediatrician, we insist on testing. Why? Because sometimes If we know that the baby is positive, we are much more alert about taking all the precautions. Number one, sometimes we watch out for this post-COVID that inflammatory syndrome what we have. Third thing is that sometimes our behavioral changes. It happens a lot that I have seen the family has not tested anyone, and once the fever is over, they are roaming around everywhere. And the family who has tested positive, they meticulously follow the home isolation thing. So this is, I feel, as in as a pediatrician, or sometimes as in um, as in our responsibility, I would say that whenever the symptoms is there, it's better to do the test, and and then you can just go ahead with that.
Uh, all right. So a little bit on masks, doctor. So about, what is the age
Yes.
group, where you should start, because some people say below 2 years it's not required. Some say below
Yeah, yeah,
5 years. And what is the type of mask? Like, is N95 and
exactly.
all necessary?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just a little bit on that.
Yes, so mask, what we see, proper application of mask, it's very difficult to do when the kids are small. Like sometimes they wear mask where they just use it, the mask is somewhere in the neck, or the mask is going out, or they are just touching the mask multiple times. That causes more harm rather than using the mask. Second thing is that you can use any mask. If you are just going out, you can use a simple cloth mask also. That is also good enough. If you're in the hospital, sometimes we as a healthcare provider, or the person who is actually dealing with COVID patient, N95 is necessary. Other than N95 is not an absolutely necessary things. Simple surgical mask if the person is having COVID, or if the person is having any symptoms. At home, when you are going out, your simple cloth mask is good enough. But use the mask properly, go home, discard the mask, wash the mask, and then dry it in sun. So that basically removes the virus and you can use it again. So it's very important how we use the mask rather than which mask we are using. If we use the mask properly, even your simple cloth mask is also good enough. And more than 2 years,
All right.
not.
Less than 2 years. Okay. Ma'am, so we have a few questions, repetitive, but on so there are a lot of doubts whether if we are planning to be planning a family, then should we take the
Yeah.
vaccine? And it's like a lot of fact sheets for Covishield Covaxin is saying that it's
Yes.
contraindicated, but we are still
Yeah.
suggesting in this forum. So
Yes,
there
yes.
was a
I
little bit of
know
confusion.
it's, yeah, I think, there's this thing is yet to come in, I would say, in the proper, vaccine leaflet, or in as a government, recommendation. But what we have seen that before nowadays, there are a lot of mothers who are pregnant and getting COVID infection, and we do see stillbirth, we do see premature delivery, premature, the babies coming early, the babies have multiple complication. And whether you get Covishield, whether you get Covaxin, sometimes you really don't have much control on what you are getting. Just get the vaccination, I would say. It's getting vaccination is much, much better than not getting the vaccination, because even if you have infection after that, the infection will be mild. The chances of mortality, or other thing, in a vaccinated person is just 0.001%, whether in a person who is not vaccinated it's high. So it doesn't matter which vaccine you are getting. There are a lot of thing, and it's lot of, I would say, it's an WhatsApp thing, or it's an Facebook thing, and they don't have enough data into it, and it just confuses people. So get vaccination whatever you are getting. You can take, do avoid vaccination when you are pregnant, when you are the first, first trimester, the first 12 weeks of pregnancy, because that is the time when the organ development happen. But after that 28 weeks you can go and end. Breastfeeding, it's absolutely safe. You can go and take it.
Okay. Thank you for that. So there were some repeated questions on that. We have a lot of questions, but most of them are repetitive in nature. So I think that should clarify on breastfeeding and pregnancy.
Mhm.
A couple of questions. I mean, a few of the questions are basically on uh, uh, 1 second, I'll just tell you.
Mhm.
Yeah, on the regular vaccine or immunization schedule, which is being, delayed or by some people, especially below
Sure.
2.5 years.
Yeah,
So,
sure, sure. Tanvi. So this is a very important thing, you know. So why kids are not getting much infection? One of the reason is that our kids are very well vaccinated. So they don't have complication because they are well vaccinated, their immunity is already better. So it depends on which vaccination you are delayed. So if your baby is for the, for initial 1.5, 2.5, 3.5 vaccination, so it's always better to get the vaccination done. You can wait for 2 weeks, but not more than that. If your baby is due for the booster dose of vaccination, already given the first dose of vaccination, then you can wait for at least a month also. It's not an issue. If your baby is due for the influenza vaccination, normally in Mumbai, what we see, influenza we see in the post monsoon season. So we give influenza, in the month of May, June, when we have the southern hemisphere influenza vaccination available with us. So you can get it, but you can wait for 1 month. If it is on some optional vaccine, you can wait for 1 month. If it is a primary vaccination series, don't wait more than 2 weeks, and you should get the baby's vaccination done. From Cloud9, from last 1 year, we have started this home vaccination program, and many of our kids we have able to vaccinate it with this program. So here, two of our sisters, senior sisters, who are really trained in vaccination, and they are going in an ambulance and they are going to your house. You have to bring the baby down in the ambulance, and we can do the vaccination in the ambulance. It's extremely safe. We are running this program for last 1 year, and we have vaccinated many patients, who are not able to come out of their society, or who are not able to catch up on the vaccination. But vaccination is extremely important, and we shouldn't delay vaccination just because you're not able to come out, because it's in near future also we are not able to see that when it's going to get over. So it may be another, if the third wave comes, then it may be another 3-4 months we'll go into it.
all right, thank you so much, ma'am. Uh, a few questions are really case specific, and I would suggest and request them to either consult with Dr. Tanushree in case if you can, either remotely or a walk-in, or you should visit your pediatrician, consulting pediatrician. There's one question again. 1 second, I'll just come to that. Um, 1 second. Yeah. So one important question which is also being asked is, uh, if the parents are also something on the primary caregiver. So if the uh, parents are also positive, like the child and the mother, is it
Mhm.
feasible for the child to be exposed to the grandparents? Because
It's a very, very important question, Tanvi, and we do see, this scenario a lot. I would say don't expose your children to grandparents. It's very important because, see, kids are getting better very easily. It's just 2 to 3 days, and then they are running around, they are playing around, and they are everywhere in the, at home. But they expose their grandparents, or they expose their, the other family members who are at risk of this COVID, who has comorbidity, who has more chances of infection. So I would say, if you are positive, please don't send the babies to the grandparents, because they are going to spread the infection to the grandparents. Most of the time, sometimes that is happening with many families, they are just sending the kid to the neighbor who are new, who don't have COVID infection at their home. So I think that we shouldn't do that. And if you cannot, isolate your baby sometime when the babies are having infection. So isolate your, family, the elderly at home, and you can wear a mask. You can, depending on how physically fit you are, how you much able to take care of the baby. You can wear a mask, you can do hand washing, and you can take care of the babies. If there is another caregiver who can take care of the baby and who is, not so old, not having any comorbidities, that is a better option.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. I think we have covered most of these questions. For the participants who are asking specific questions, please do consult your pediatrician, or you could also consult Dr. Tanushree. I have this one last question. It's not
Yes,
really medically related, but a lot
yes,
of questions are on children who are, nursery or pre-nursery
yeah.
children. So, is it a good time to put them in schools? Something on
I
that.
know, Tanvi, I really don't know the answer. In fact, after the
Yeah.
first wave was over, we do see everything started, but we are expecting our third wave. And trust me, in the third wave, the kids are going to get affected more. We have not seen, the whatever the symptoms we are seeing right now in kids, it was not there in the first wave. But now, if we expose our kids till the time they have their vaccination, I would say it's risky. I know it's, kids are going through a lot right now. We do see a lot of speech delay. We do see a lot of, tantrums, a lot of mental issues. Sometimes they are not able to, communicate with the parents. Sometimes they are not able to, communicate, or the social interaction is less. But it's risky right now. Specifically for the younger one to send to school, it's physical. I would say it's much more difficult. Maybe that can wait for another, few months or so. Not now. Maybe after the third wave.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Tanushree. There were a lot of questions on the third wave as well, but I think you've answered that already. So I think we've covered most of the questions. A lot of them were repetitive in nature, and you've answered them as well. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Tanushree, and taking us through this insightful topic. And I hope there have
Thank you.
been good takeaway for all the participants. Thank you, participants, for joining us. We hope that you stay safe and healthy and have a good weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Tanvi. And I really loved, today's session. There are a lot of questions. I hope, I have answered few. So what I can say, please, please, please don't panic, and don't stress it out, because whenever, I know that I have COVID infection, sometimes, it's a lot of unnecessary stress that what we are going through. It is manageable. It is manageable at home. It is manageable very nicely at home. So don't take stress. Call your doctor, speak with your doctor. Most of the time what you need is just paracetamol, rest, hydration, and that's it. Not more than that. There are a lot of questions on, investigation. We don't do so many investigation in kids as what we do in the adults, because they really don't need it. But if the babies are showing this, the second symptoms, what we say that multi-inflammatory syndrome, if you have any of the features in your baby, please don't delay. Go to your doctor, and those are the babies need to be investigated. They may need CT scan, they may need blood workup, they may need X-rays and all other things. Regularly, if the babies are going, just 2 to 3 days of illness, if they are better, stay at home, complete your home isolation, and then you are thorough. There is nothing more than that what we need.
Thank you so much for those closing comments, Doctor. I really appreciate that. And thank you for joining us
Thank
today
you.
once again.
Thank you. Thank you
Take
so much.
care.
Thank you.